Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Today, I'm very happy to have a very esteemed guest with us. His name is Prashant Singh. Those who are in Australia, they are already well aware with what Prashant do. But for my global podcast viewers, I will just give you a brief background about him. He is one of the key strategic leaders, especially in Australian government space, where he has given a lot of strategic direction and done a lot of implementation on with different Australian government entities. He's an alumnus for a lot of Australian leadership programs, namely Australia Day Council, Aspire, CEDA Copland Leadership Program. In addition to that, he's also a state chair for Western Australia IT Service Management Forum. But the best thing about him is he likes to give back to the society with the big heart he has. So he has agreed to be part of this podcast where we would be discussing on Australian cyber regulation. The reason why I invited Prashant is because he also leads this strategic initiative through Indian Australian Technology Forum, where he talks about how India and Australia as countries can improve each other's cybersecurity posture, some of the strategic initiatives. So I thought he would be the best guest for that. Thanks a lot, Prashant, for taking my humble invite and joining in.
Thank you, Vinal, and absolutely pleasure. Delighted to speak to you. And I know we did change the date of the catch-ups a few times. Having a very busy schedule, I was not able to, get time with you. So, look, as said, cybersecurity is forefront of every government at the moment. So we're talking about what's going on currently. What happened over the weekend with CrowdStrike. Which basically in a not in a expected way stopped all the global business. And companies are still reeling in from the impact of the small bug which got into the system. So, as you know, cybersecurity, digital way of living and lifestyle is now central to everyday work we do, whether we are delivering services in the corporate world, whether we are delivering government services, or whether we are doing our day-to-day work or working in the community. We cannot enable our life without digital footprint. And so to safeguard those aspect of society, we need to show that cybersecurity is forefront and center. It's not an afterthought. It's basically essential to what we do. Security first. So that's the focus from service perspective. But in terms of the work that we do, cybersecurity is not just limited to a domain within a government or an agency or entity. It's a global phenomenon in terms of how we collaborate with like-minded democracies, how we collaborate with countries, sharing threat intelligence. All those aspects are very vital. And you'll be surprised to know the cybersecurity is now part of all the diplomatic exchange between the countries. And now we have seen last year what happened with artificial intelligence. There has been global summit in artificial intelligence, run by India, also by UK, and there's also a European Union leading that charge as well. So you see this whole cybersecurity, AI, and digital and emerging technology is front and center of our global diplomacy and how we engage with like-minded democracies to safeguard our national interests. Now, in Australia, if you look at last few years, we have seen acceleration in the change of legislative governance in terms of how new legislations are coming and how we are also reforming the existing rules and regulations. Now, everything needs to be regulated. Now, we need regulation to enable citizens' life, in terms of how government, come into to make sure that they minimize the harm and maximize the outcome for the community. So that's how we have regulation in place. Now, there are various regulation in place. Say, for example, Critical Infrastructure Act is there.
Yep.
Telecommunication Act is there, Privacy Act is there, SOCI Act is there. There's a
Yep.
lot of regulation which are at the moment. And as a CISO or as a cybersecurity analyst, you worry about what I need to do to be complying of this regulation.
Yep.
Bottom line is, if there's two thoughts to cybersecurity, one is compliance head, one is
Yep.
about making sure that you're doing the right thing. Now,
Yep.
lack of regulation doesn't mean that we don't have to do that.
Yep.
Now, what we have seen last few major attacks in cybersecurity, if you look at what happened with Medibank, what happened with Optus, and what happened with MedSecure, which unfortunately half of Australian population was
Yep.
impacted. 13
Yep.
million, 12.9 million Australian data is stolen. Now,
Yep.
on the hindsight, if you look at the companies which are ticking a box saying that we are compliant,
Yep.
but being compliant doesn't
Yep.
translate into being secure.
Yep.
And also there's a cost of compliance as well.
Yep.
If you talk about compliances, a lot of companies will say that, to comply with the regulation, there'll be a lot of cost involved. They might not have resources available. They might not able to, and also a lot of regulations are interrelated, and they all have different jurisdictions. So it just creates lot of overhead for
Yep.
the companies to do the right thing. But the bottom line is, if I'm doing any business, I'm delivering any services, I need to make sure that I understand what is value to me, what is valuable assets,
Yep.
and how much investment is required to safeguard that asset.
Yep.
What are the different layers of security involved? How do I know if someone is touching my assets or not? And what processes are in place to stop the attack on the tracks, and also making sure that data is secure? So I think compliance hat is there in terms of giving assurance to people about that this company is compliant to, say, for example, privacy acts, or we are complying to all the standards.
Yep.
But that also need to make sure that we are doing the right thing, going above and beyond the
Yes.
compliance.
Yes.
So
That's true.
that's to me is like a very challenging space, because, as you know, technology and technological advancement is going very fast.
Yes.
And there's always a lag between the technical advancement and innovation and the regulation. Regulation
Yep.
is always a catch up. So there's
Yep.
always a gap in between. And this is where industry and the businesses need to play a role in terms of making sure that we are doing the right thing for
Yep.
the business and for the
Yep.
country.
That's true. That's actually well summed up. Actually, you make a very pertinent point that it is just not about the compliance, but actually doing the hard yards. That's in every aspect, and doing everything correct to the threat landscape that every organization face for itself. But
Right.
coming back to your work that you're doing with this India Australia Technology Forum, and your experience with working with other countries and their diplomats, I would want to understand, like, how do you think the current Australian regulations, how do you think that it stacks up against other countries' initiatives, and what good
Hmm.
things we are doing in this space?
Yeah, look, as said, we are not isolated as one country. We have to look at holistically. And what I always say, adopt the regulation and the governance and learn from what other country has done. We don't have to
Yep.
reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
Now, as you know, Australia has been leading in terms of the work that they have done in AI.
Yep.
So, Australian AI, framework, which was ethical framework, or those things that was agreed upon a few years ago. Australia, Singapore, and European Union. Those safety guidelines and those ethical principles for AI is really, really leading edge. So Australia is also leading in some of those acts and regulation. But if you look at the majority of cybersecurity and data privacy regulations or laws, if you see, like take an example, USA. Now, U.S. government, I think last year, has signed, um, at a federal level, about using zero trust based framework for all the federal government agency.
Yep.
So they had done a very good thing over there. Adopting the zero trust framework for all the work they do. So that's basically strengthened the cybersecurity posture for the country. Another example is like what UK government has done in terms of uh, is strengthening the cybersecurity posture for small and medium businesses. Like
Okay.
they have assurance program where you can do your self-assessment if you are a small business or a medium business, say for example, a law firm,
Hmm.
or you're running a medical clinic, or you're doing a small business, just serving
Yep.
to your customer, or a small engineering firm. You can do self-assessment in terms of your cybersecurity maturity. You can also do a third-party independent assessment. That's give you assurance, a tick to a person who is working with you that this company who I'm interacting with is doing something legitimate and right within the cybersecurity space. Now, we can learn from this. So
Yep.
if you look at what happens within, like what's happening right in Australia at the moment, the incentive for small and medium businesses only came just last year. There's few funding came from federal government, but if you look
Okay.
at the threat landscape, small and medium businesses has been used to launch attack to the bigger businesses as well, because the whole
Mm.
supply
Yes,
chain
true.
is vulnerable at the moment. So we can adopt those framework which is done and tested in UK, and basically adopt for Australia. So I think we don't have to reinvent all the wheels. Now, if you look at GDPR regulation, our Privacy Act is actually going towards that, adopting
Yep.
those frameworks. NIST guideline from USA, if you look at, that's also, Singapore has done a lot of work in that cybersecurity and AI space. Israel as well, and
Yep.
India, has is leading the technology stack as well. Like if you look at the way India has adopted digital to make citizens' life better, or
Yep.
bring governance to its citizen.
Yep.
The way they have harnessed the ID, digital ID
Yes.
reform, and you all know the benefit is leaps and bounds. India is growing at the moment
Yep.
7% GDP, and
Yep.
the back of the growth is bringing digital to the citizen services and matching that up. I think there's a lot
Yep.
of lessons learned.
Yep.
But as you know, we also in Australia, we are moving fast. We have last year we have got the digital ID bill.
Yep.
That, thank God, that was fairly well overdue, but that's
Yep.
been done. Now we need
Yes.
to get the rubber hitting the road.
Yeah.
Getting this thing moving forward to expand this the scope of work. So I think there's a lot of
Good.
learning and from different
Yeah.
countries as well. And Australia and India, if you talk about the relationship and in terms of cybersecurity, if you talk about that, there's immense potential to two ecosystem to work collaboratively. India has got immense skilled resource pool, as you know,
Yep.
and Australia has got 30,000 plus vacancy or shortage of skilled labor force in terms
Yeah.
of cybersecurity. So there's an immense collaboration that we can do between two countries in terms of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
India can benefit from the latest innovation. Australia can benefit from resourcing. So it's like those relationship is very complementing each other. So I think that is the real strength there.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome thoughts, actually. Very awesome insights regarding your work that doing between India, Australia, strategic relationship on cybersecurity. And also one thing I think Australia is doing well with the SOCI Act is they are also collating, like, because SOCI Act requires them to give them some sort of governance. Like at the end of the year, you have to list down all your risk to the critical infrastructure, big or small. But if you have to send it to the central authority, that is the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Center, and they are coming up with good reports, I feel, annually, where they give a good highlight of where are we lagging in infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and also uh, what are we doing good. And I think anything improvement only starts after you know the visibility of what is your current state. So I think that is something that Australia is doing pretty well. So
Yes,
yep,
yes. I think
yep,
that's also a good point because, as you know, those critical infrastructure, are the lifeline for
yep,
everyday, working. And we have seen that what happens when the lifeline is threatened. What happened with the CrowdStrike, you know,
yes, yep, yeah,
stopping people's life. We can't go to the bank. We can't go to the shop.
yep,
We can't
yeah,
buy a ticket. We can't go to the movie. We can't fly a
yep,
plane. Everything comes to grinding halt. So there is a criticality of those infrastructure. So now the onus about maintaining those infrastructure relies solely on the people who are the custodian, accountable for maintenance of the network. But
yeah,
as a government, we need to have a full visibility. What
mm,
is the risk that these infrastructure are exposed to? So this is really
yep,
good exercise the government is doing in terms of
yep,
risk management and
yeah,
getting those risks reported up the chain. So we
yes,
can make sure that whether it is power supply, water supply, supply chains. When you're
yep,
talking about the big Coles, Woolworths, and all those things are now part of our critical infrastructure. So those people are doing the right thing, and if there's any gap or any potential improvement or their risk which is beyond the risk appetite,
yeah,
it can be managed accordingly, because at the end of the day it's about the delivery of services to the
and
citizen, and
securing
also
Australia, yeah,
and
and
also it's matter of our national security. So
true,
so
true,
so I think one thing good has happened in terms of how we have established the National Office of Cyber Security Coordinator, and we have
yeah,
seen that working really well. When we had attack on DP World, the biggest sport, a couple of
yeah,
months ago. Then we have all this fallout of different cyber attacks. So we have a lead entity, lead agency, which is leading the response in terms of
yes,
managing the impact of those attacks. So I think this is a really proactive approach,
proactive
and
approach,
also the strategy by the government. We did the submission to the cybersecurity strategy. That is a very well thought strategy, for
yep,
2023. That
yep,
is that is the gold fight. I can say that we are leading that
yep,
income. If we get all those elements right, and I think by 2020, 30,
30, yeah,
we'll be one of the most secure nations. So I think there's also lessons for other countries to
just to
learn
learn
from
from
how
us,
we're leading. We did start a bit late. I can
yeah,
say in my thought, even we are 5 6 behind at the moment, but we still
yeah,
doing a right thing. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think you made very relevant points. Unfortunately, that's the time we have. So, and I'm really grateful for you joining in and giving such wonderful insights to us. Thanks a lot, and hoping to see you soon.
Thank you, Vinil, and thanks for having me. And as always, we are here to serve the community. And if you have any questions later on, feel free to send it to me. And our forum, which is Indian Australian Technology Forum, it is the forum of Indian professionals across Australia, and we encourage working together, collaboration. We help and share mentor people as well. So as you know,
Yep.
connect, learn, and grow is our mentor mantra
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So this is all about supporting each other and giving back to the community. And thanks for your chat, Vinod. Appreciate
Thanks a
that.
lot. Thank you. Bye.